Dera, Simbi, and Ene had been friends since their first year in the university. They met in the hostel and quickly became close. Though they came from different backgrounds, they shared their dreams and struggles. Dera was the one who stood out the most. She was beautiful, confident, and had everything a young lady could wish for: expensive clothes, the latest phones, and a lifestyle that made people envy her. Unlike many students who struggled with money, Dara never seemed to lack. She always had enough to spend and even shared with her friends. Whenever Simbi or Ene needed something, Dara would give them money without hesitation. She paid for their meals, took them shopping, and even covered some of their school expenses. Simbi was grateful for Dara's kindness, but she often wondered how Dara got her money. Simbi came from a humble home and was used to managing the little her parents sent to her. She spent most of her time studying, determined to graduate with good grades and make her family proud. Ene, on the other hand, was different. She enjoyed the gifts and money Dara gave them, but wanted more. She envied Dara's luxurious life and longed to have the same life as she. She often asked Dara to introduce her to the men who spoiled her with money, but Dara always refused. "Why can't you just connect me?" Ene would ask. "I want to enjoy life too." Dara would always smile and shake her head. "It's not that simple, Ene. Just be content with what I give you." Ene was not satisfied with that answer. She knew Dara was hiding something, and she was determined to find out what it was. One evening, after a long day of lectures, the three friends sat outside their hostel chatting. Dara had just returned from a shopping trip with new clothes and a designer handbag. "Dara, you are enjoying, oh," Simbi teased. "See how fresh you are looking." Dara laughed. "You people should stop looking at me like that. It's just small enjoyment." And folded her arms. "Dara, be honest with us. How do you afford all these things? You don't work, and we know your parents are not rich." Dara's smile faded for a second, but she quickly recovered. "I have someone who takes care of me," she said. "That's all that matters." Ene was not convinced. "Then introduce one of his friends to us now. I am tired of managing." Dara's face hardened. "Ene, I said no, stop asking." Simbi noticed the tension and decided to change the topic. "Dara, at least we appreciate all you do for us. Thank you," Simbi said. Dara nodded, but her mind was troubled. She wished she could tell her friends the truth, but she was scared, too scared. Ken, her boyfriend, had warned her never to speak of what he had done to her. She could never have children, all because she had chosen money over everything else. If she told anyone, she would die. The thought made her shiver. Dara met Ken in her first year. He was rich, charming, and treated her like a queen. At first, she believed she was just lucky to have found a man who adored her. He took her to expensive restaurants, bought her gifts, and gave her money without asking for anything in return. But everything changed when he invited her to a special business meeting with his friends. He told her she had to do something for him to secure their future. She trusted him, so she agreed. That night, she was taken to a strange house where Ken's friends performed rituals on her. She was scared but convinced herself it was just part of their culture. It was only later that she realized what had happened. Ken confessed that they had used her womb for rituals. She would never be able to have children. Dara was devastated. "Ken, you are evil. How would you do such a thing to me? I thought you said you loved me." She cried and begged Ken to reverse it, but he laughed. "This is the price of wealth, my dear," he said. "You can't go back now, and if you tell anyone, you will die." After all, you've been enjoying the proceeds, didn't you? Did you ever bother to ask where the money was coming from? Ken added. Dera was shocked and devastated all at the same time. Dera wanted to run, but where was she going to run to? The deed has already been done. She wanted to make reports, but she was too scared. She did not want to die. She was already too deep in it. The money was good, but the price she had to pay was too high. Now, she was trapped. She told herself that she would never introduce her friends to Ken and his friends because she knew they were evil, especially Ene, who had severally asked to meet with Ken's friends because she knew they would destroy her, just as they had destroyed her. Ene was growing restless. Valentine's Day was approaching, and everywhere she looked, in school, girls were talking about the gifts their boyfriends would buy them. She didn't want to be left out. She wanted expensive gifts, money, and the good life. She tried asking Dera one more time, but the answer was still no. Why don't you want me to enjoy it too now? Ene asked angrily. Ene, just be patient, Dera said. Not all money is good money. Ene scoffed. But you are enjoying it. Dera sighed. You don't understand. Every time you tell me I won't understand, Dera. Please make me understand. So you don't want me to date rich guy like you. I get it. No problem. Ene had had enough. If Dera would not help her, she would help herself. She knew Dera's phone's password, and one night, when Dera was asleep, she took her phone and copied Ken's number. The next day, she called him. Hello, my name is Ene. I am Dera's friend. Ken laughed on the other end. Ah, Dera's friend, what can I do for you? I want to meet you, Ene said confidently. I want to enjoy too. Ken paused for a moment. He knew Ene had called without Dera's knowledge. Then he said, Can you come to the big lounge restaurant? Let's meet there, say tomorrow. She agreed. Ene's heart raced with excitement. She had done it. She was finally going to have the life she wanted. The following day, Ene dressed up looking really beautiful. When Dera saw her, she wondered where she was up to. Ene, this one you're all dressed up. Where are you going? My friend, don't worry. I met this new guy. He's very rich and he invited me for a date. Really? Ene, please be careful. The world is not safe anymore. Dera said with a warm smile. My friend, don't worry about me. I will be fine, Ene said as she left. On getting to the restaurant, she waited for a while and then Ken came in with a luxury SUV. Her mouth was wide opened. What? This guy is freaking rich. No wonder Dera is hiding him from us. Ken walked in. You must be Ene, I guess. Yes. Ken, you are so handsome. Ken smiled. You look beautiful as well. Ene blushed as Ken complimented her look, and then he asked her to make her order. After they had finished eating, she asked for takeaway, and of course, Ken obliged her, and she ordered plates of takeaway with chicken and turkey, a bottle of wine, juice, and when she was done, Ken paid the bills without even blinking. And as she was about to leave, he gave her 100,000 naira. Ene's eyes widened. All this for me? Wow! Thank you. You're such a good man. Ken, lean forward. There are more to come. Let this be our little secret. Of course, I am not a baby now, Ene assured him. Don't worry, I will make this Valentine a special one for you. And if you do well, 1 million naira will be all yours. Really? Ah, fine man. Count me in, Ene added. Okay then. When she arrived, the ladies were surprised to see the goodies she brought with her. Ene, see enjoyment oh. My friend, it is God oh. But unlike Dera, Ene did not share with her friends at all. She ate everything she had brought from the restaurant as the ladies watched Ene devour the food. That night, Ene could not sleep. Ah, this Dera is a very stingy and wicked girl. No wonder she has been hiding a man from me. She does not want me to enjoy like her. What did I do that I got 100,000 naira on the spot just like that, eh? And welcome to the Good Life Club, she thought to herself. Valentine's Day arrived and Ene, dressed in her best clothes, she told no one where she was going, not even Simbi. She wanted to surprise everyone when she returned with money and expensive gifts. As she left the hostel, Dera noticed she was unusually excited. "Where are you going?" Dera asked. "Just to see someone," Ene replied with a smile. Dera shrugged and let her go, not knowing that Ene was going to meet up with Ken, her boyfriend. Ken welcomed Ene into his luxurious house with open arms. He poured her a drink and complimented her beauty. "I will give you 1 million naira today," he whispered. "Just relax." Ene's heart jumped with joy. She imagined all the things she could buy. She didn't know that she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. A day after Valentine's Day, and Ene was nowhere to be found. At first, Simbi assumed she had gone to visit her other friends and would return soon. But as the hours turned into days, worry crept into her heart. Dera, on the other hand, had a sinking feeling. She knew Ene had been acting strange before she left. She was scared. Where could Ene had gone to? And to make things difficult for them, she did not tell anyone where she was going. Who were they going to hold responsible? By the third day, their worry turned into panic. Ene wasn't picking up her calls, and her phone had been switched off. Simbi and Dera reported her disappearance to the hostel's authorities, who advised them to check with her other friends, but no one had seen or heard from Ene. Finally, they decided to report the case to the police. Dera struggled with the decision, but Ene was missing and something had to be done. The police took the case seriously and began their investigation. They asked Dera and Simbi several questions about Ene's last known movements. Dera hesitated before finally admitting that Ene had seemed unusually happy on Valentine's Day. "She didn't tell us where she was going," Simbi added. "She just left." Days turned into weeks and there was still no sign of Ene. Dera and Simbi grew restless, barely able to focus on their lectures. The hostel felt empty without Ene's lively presence, and fear hung over them like a dark cloud. Then, one fateful evening, as they sat outside their hostel, they saw a familiar figure staggering towards them. Ene looked like a shadow of herself. Her clothes were torn, her skin were covered in bruises, and her eyes soaking with fear. As soon as she stepped into the compound, she collapsed. Ene, Simbi screamed, rushing to her side. Dera felt frozen in place, unable to believe what she was seeing. They carried Ene inside, gave her water, and tried to calm her down. Ene clutched Dera's hands, tears streaming down her face. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I should have listened to you." Dera's heart pounded in her chest. "What happened?" Ene's body shook as she spoke. "Ken, he's a monster. They tried to use me for rituals." Dera gasped, and Simbi covered her mouth in horror. "They locked me in a dark room for days," Ene continued. "They brought other girls too. I heard their screams. I thought I was going to die. But one night, they got drunk and left the door unlocked. I ran for my life." Dera felt sick to her stomach. She had known Ken was dangerous, But hearing Ene's experience made it real. Ene had barely escaped with her life. The next day, Ene was strong enough to go to the police. She gave them a detailed account of what had happened. She told them about the house, the rituals, and the other girls who hadn't been lucky as her. The police wasted no time that night. They raided Ken's house. They found evidence of his horrific crimes, charms, ritual tools, and even belongings of the missing girls. Ken and his gang were arrested. When Dera heard the news, she broke down in tears. She had spent years living under Ken's control, afraid to leave. But now, his reign of terror was over. Ene, however, was never the same. She was traumatized by her experience. The doctor told her that the ritual had already begun before she escaped, and her health had been affected. She struggled to sleep, haunted by nightmares of what had almost happened to her. Ene tried to return to normal life, but she couldn't. The university reminded her too much of her mistake. She could no longer focus in class, and her health continued to decline. Dera and Simbi tried their best to console her, but nothing could change what had already happened. Ene barely spoke, barely ate. She withdrew from everyone and spent most of her time in bed, battling nightmares that refused to leave her mind. The once lively, energetic Ene was now a shadow of herself. Dera, weighed down by her guilt, finally confessed the truth about Ken. She told Simbi everything: how he had used her womb for rituals, how Ken had made her to live in fear all these years, and how she had tried to protect them without revealing her own pains. Simbi was heartbroken for both of them. Ene, despite her suffering, asked for Dera's forgiveness. She admitted that her greed had blinded her and she had made a terrible mistake. "I am sorry, Dera, for being such a bad friend, for wanting to steal your man away from you. I thought I was the smart one. Now, see where it has landed me. I am truly sorry." Dera looked at her and took a deep breath, and then she forgave her. But the damage was irreversible. After weeks of struggling, Ene made a heartbreaking decision. She could no longer continue her studies. The physical and emotional scars were too deep. She packed her bags and returned home, leaving behind painful reminder of dangers of greed. Ene had to drop out from school. Simbi watched as Ene left the hostel, her heart heavy with sorrow. The room felt emptier without her. She turned to Dera, who sat quietly on her bed, lost in thoughts. "We have to move forward," Simbi said gently. "Ene wouldn't want us to stop living." Dera nodded but said nothing. She was still processing everything. She had spent so much time living under the control of Ken's threats, and now that he was gone, she didn't know how to feel. Meanwhile, the news of Ken's arrest spread across campus. Students whispered about the shocking revelation, and some even came to ask Dera questions. She refused to talk about it. She just wanted to be left alone. Simbi, determined to focus on her studies, encouraged Dera to do the same. "You can't let this define your future," she reminded her. Slowly, Dera began attending classes again. It wasn't easy, but with Simbi's support, she started to reclaim her life. Simbi took her to see her pastor for prayers, and Dera gave her life to Christ, denouncing any form of covenant she must have entered into, knowingly and unknowingly. And from there onwards, Dera began to feel peace, the type she had never felt before. Months passed and things began to change. Dera and Simbi worked hard in school, avoiding unnecessary attention. Though the memories of what happened still haunted them, they refused to let it break them. One afternoon, Dera received an unexpected call from Ene. Her voice was weak, but she sounded better than before. I just wanted to hear your voice, Ene said. I miss you both. Tears welled up in Dera's eyes. We miss you too. How are you holding up? I am trying, Ene replied. Some days are harder than others, but I am getting better. They talked for a long time, reminiscing about their good days before everything went wrong. But Dera encouraged Ene to seek the help of God as he was the only one who could help her. When Dera hung up, she felt a renewed sense of hope. Perhaps, in time, they would all heal. Despite everything, Dera knew she had to do something meaningful with her life. She decided to start a small awareness campaign on campus about the dangers of seeking quick wealth. She shared her story anonymously, hoping to prevent others from making the same mistake. At first, people were skeptical, but as the stories of missing girls and ritual sacrifices became more widespread and rampant in the news, more students began to listen. Simbi helped organize events, inviting counselors and security personnel to educate students on how to stay safe. The campaign grew bigger than they had expected, and even some lecturers supported their cause. For the first time in a long time, Dera felt like she was doing something right. She couldn't erase the past, but she could at least make sure others didn't fall into the same trap. And the mistake of her past gave her a purpose, one that was going to change the life of a lot of young people forever. Thanks for watching the story. I hope you learned some valuable lessons from this story. Kindly share with us in the comment section the lessons you have learned as we interact. Remember to kindly share out this video to your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed. Like this video please. Until I come your way again, for now, from me, it is bye.